Really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth, your podcast for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. We are part of the Sports Social Network, and you can find us wherever you typically get your content, whether YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you like. So there was some amazing rugby on offer this weekend, so why don't we get this thing on the road? But, of course, starting, as always, with our current updates, I can finally confirm a few details that we've been sort of dancing around lately. So I'm about to start a new podcast. It's called the MAUL Street Journal. It's going to be a new American-based podcast that is going to sort of fall underneath the WRAP umbrella. For those of you who don't know, WRAP is the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast, but the main podcast is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. There's many what Lee calls feeder pods, which represent the 4 regions as they now stand, though, boy, that might be changing, and other competitions as well. So if you're a fan like I am, you'll know that he's also been asking for new ideas, new horizons, new competitions to cover, and so me, Rugby Julia, and Nick from Texas, I'm not sure yet how we're going to be referring to him, we will be doing a show covering all things American rugby, including sevens. It'll be launching in time for the summer series for the Eagles. In fact, maybe as early as Monday. So that's the MAUL Street Journal. You can already find us on Twitter. We're getting close to doing some stuff on Blue Sky and a bunch of other stuff as well. So very, very excited about that. So it may be that I kind of wind up this version of the weekly podcast, at least as far as reviewing all these different competitions. So what does seem to consistently resonate for the Scrum of the Earth are the interviews, which tend to be my favorite episodes as well. So my plan right now is to shift my focus on a weekly basis to the MAUL Street Journal, but keep the Scrum of the Earth going for the incredible interviews I'm so lucky to get. I'm planning to wrap up these seasons that we're covering and talking about for now, fear not, but then we will see. So, keep in mind, we're about to hit episode 200, and there are more than 100 bonus episodes and interviews in there as well. So there's obviously going to be plenty of content still coming your way. Anyway, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. We shall see what we shall see. That brings us, of course, to our reviews. And of course, as we often do, we'll start with the URC. We also, of course, had the Prem, Super Rugby for the qualifying finals, and the top 14 winding up their year. The MLR finished its final round, and WER was into its penultimate round. So much stuff coming to a head. As I say, starting, though, with the URC, we'll begin with Glasgow heading to Dublin in search of an incredibly elusive win against Leinster. I predicted Glasgow's season would end last weekend, so getting this far was just gravy, but I was worried that they would lose by a crippling, self-doubt inducing margin, which would be a crummy ending to their run as reigning champions. The match was staged at a mostly empty RDS, pretty sure, and it was eerily empty, but the Warriors struggled right from the start. It was 7-5, then 12-5, then 15-5, then 20-5, and there was still time left in the first half. Quote, "They have a mountain to climb here," unquote, in tone of the comms as they went to the lockers down a full 20. By the time Glasgow got their second score, the game was effectively over. Wasn't as bad as I had feared, but let's face it, it wasn't good. As the metaphorical curtain and the literal rains came down, the reigning champions had been ousted in Dublin. But it was 37-19. Hard to feel too down about it after their performance last season to win it all. But fans must feel like they've sort of, been left with a ton of what ifs this year. So switching gears and heading down to the Rainbow Nation, where the Bulls were home in Pretoria to take on the Sharks. The air of invincibility at Loftus has been dispelled somewhat, but the Sharks have been very up and down in the season. I wondered which team was going to show up. Loftus looked like the opposite of the RDS. It was swarming with fans. Fantastic atmosphere right from the start. No Etzebeth for the Sharks, which, as I've been saying, all season is always a bad omen. He's been the player that's made the difference for them all year, and his absence is often sorely felt. Quote, "You have to take a moment to feel the energy at the fortress," unquote, said the comms. But as they played Sweet Caroline, it was hard to take seriously. It's enough already. Can we go back to it being just a Red Sox thing? Please, I'm begging. So, as I imagine, the visitors seem to struggle for no particular reason other than missing their talismanic ogre captain. With a couple of missed kicks, it was 12-3 after a half hour. This game already had the hallmarks of one of the games that the Sharks should have won this season. I'm so glad I'm not a Sharks supporter. It must be absolutely maddening. So the Bulls did that thing they often do, which is let their discipline lapse. Despite a 15-3 lead just before the intermission, they were down 2 players. The comms told us this was the time for the Sharks to strike. Almost as soon as one of the 2 penalized players returned, it was a third yellow against the Bulls. They were playing a dangerous game. For me, it was a style reminiscent of the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. Like, their MO was, if we constantly commit penalties on every play, the officials will get tired of pinging us and it'll work out in our favor in the long run. We would see if that would be a sound strategy with Angus Gardner in charge. He doesn't strike me as an official to reward such tactics. Fast forward, it was 15-13 with under a half hour to go. The Hendricksa kicking woes continued. The visitors failing to convert an easy 2 points, with the Sharks kicking make the difference on the day. Probably didn't matter. The Bulls were dominant in the second half, and you could see it in the body language of the visitors that it was over before it was over. 25-13 was your final score. And I guess we went chalk. The top 2 teams advanced. We have a showdown in Dublin this coming weekend. I think Leinster are the better team by, a good mile, but they have a recent history of choking in these very moments. So that does mean we're set for the grand final. It's Leinster hosting the Bulls. While I'm kind of looking forward to it, it's hard to care too much. I'm not a fan of either of these teams. And, the fun possibilities for URC 2025 kind of dried up last week. Nonetheless, we'll be in Dublin for a game that might be hard to watch, but will determine the champion of the 4th iteration of the United Rugby Championship. It'll be worth watching, if only for the historical value. I mean, who am I kidding? We all know I'm going to be watching it anyway. Anyway, meanwhile, elsewhere in Europe, it was the other semi-final round with the Gallagher Premiership down to its final 4 on Friday. It was the one I was most looking forward to, as Bath hosting the bonkers Bristol Bears. USA Eagle stalwart AJ McGinty came out in support of the Chicago Hounds in Major League Rugby, even forecasting them to win it all this season. So I was hoping his team would go down in flames. Some great shots of the locker rooms before things kicked off. Genge giving a fiery speech to his underdog Bears. But quick side note, Ellis Genge was too fired up. Like, he was jawing with fans as they took the field. He was yelling at teammates. He was quickly getting on the wrong side of the ref. Players like Cam Redpath poking and prodding him into a rage. And he isn't supposed to be like that anymore. Like, these things used to be my biggest criticism of him, but I've talked at length about how he stopped all of that. Like, it used to be, if you want the other team to get somebody thrown out, just start annoying Genge because he'll eventually blow his stack. But he spent the last few years mastering that weakness. So I was surprised to see him sort of, I don't know, I feel like I'm his disappointed dad or something, but it was strange to see this Genge on such a big stage. If you're keeping track at home, the answer was 11:04. That's what the clock read when the comms first called Finn Russell Finn Smith. I think Finn Smith is a very good player, perhaps a great one, but that was offensive. First blood was drawn by AJ McGinty, a gorgeous, sumptuous try soon after by James Dunn, the Dunn of 1N, and his first of the year. James Dunn, born in Bath, forged in Bristol, intoned the comps, gave them a 10-point lead before the end of the first quarter. Were we in for an absolute shocker to open the playoffs? Even Finn's broken a sweat, they said, though I didn't see that. Quote, a really significant moment here, unquote, they said, as Ravuvu was yellow carded for not getting out of Ben Spencer's way. Felt like that was manufactured by Spencer, but it was undeniable, and we would be a huge loss for the guests after a blazing start. Bristol, to be fair, showed some amazing improvisational attack. They are a fun team to watch when it clicks, but again, I'm so glad I'm not a supporter. It must be a roller coaster. 6-13 was the surprising score at halftime, but Finn, not Smith, tied it up early in the second 40 minutes. I feel bad because my memo reminding Bristol to play in the second half, and after Henry Randall went off with an injury, Marmy and his replacement got yellow carded, leaving them with no 9 anywhere in sight, and with the lead already 27-13. It was a full 14-point lead for the home team with just 5 minutes remaining. By the way, as I'm thinking about it, what I just said, I don't know what that thing was I said about my memo reminding Bristol to play. I feel like I started that sentence and didn't quite finish it. So if that didn't make sense, you're not alone. Anyway, a promising drive went sloppily forward and hope seemed to dissipate for the fast-starting Bears. Quote, he's not the Messiah yet, unquote, said the comms as Finn left the field with the victory well in hand. Actual Finn, by the way. Bath would be the first to punch their ticket to the final 34-20 after a stunning second half. Our next offering was, of course, Leicester versus Sale. I was honestly a bit surprised to see either of these teams in the top 4, but I guess that shows how out of touch I've been with this comp lately. In a way that made it more exciting because I just had no idea which team might win. And, number 2 versus number 3 matchups are always tight. Quote, ladies and gentlemen, brace for impact, unquote, said the comps as we got underway at a packed Welford Road. I was pretty fired up. I just completely lost my place in the script here, but I should find it quickly. Anyway. Yes, sorry about that. Anyway, they said Leicester had never lost a playoff game at this stadium, but Sale have been on great form to round out their season. So would they break that tradition? Radwan got the first try in acrobatic style. He's not someone who's been on my radar, but I instantly took a shine to him. He's like a ballet dancer, like getting some extra practice in. Wasn't long before he got another with even more spectacular this one. And this Tigers team is kind of fun. Last time these teams met, Sale built a 10-point lead before going on to lose by 10, but Leicester looked like they were in no mood to give away leads today. They thoroughly dominated the first half, though it was still anyone's game at 13-3 at halftime. As the sun returned, so did the hopes of the Sharks, climbing to within 3. And in the final quarter, Dan Cole came in for his final appearance at home for the Tigers. Heck of a player. Even a non-England fan like me can appreciate the career of such a player. Speaking of great players, George Ford tied things up at 16 as we began the closing stages, but this game, more than any that comes to mind, shows how important it is to strategize your bench and to use it correctly. Both sides getting massive impact from their replacements. Leicester were up 5 with 5 to go. The momentum Sale had gathered seemed to have dissipated. With 2 minutes left, it looked like the home side would go to the ultra slowdown, give it to a forward who falls over tactic, a thing that always works and that hurts when your team is the one watching it happen. I'm curious what you all think about that, by the way, listeners. Like, does there need to be a rule revision? We change all the laws every single year, it seems like. Is that one that we need to look at? Anyway, the game ended with a whimper rather than a bang, a simple mistake leading to a season-ending moment. Leicester advancing to the final 21-16. That, of course, sets up the final. Bath nominally hosting Leicester at Allianz London. There's a bit of history between these clubs. The first match between Bath and Leicester took place on September 13th, 1913. Since then, they've played over 200 matches, with 77 occurring in the Premiership era. Bath largely dominated the early days of formalized rugby competitions, particularly the 80s and 90s under coach Jack Rowell. They won numerous Anglo-Welsh Cups and 6 league titles in 8 years, including several doubles, league and cup. Leicester then became the dominant force around the turn of the 21st century, and most recently won it all in the 2021-22 season, while Bath haven't won it since 1995 to 1996. Okay. Switching gears and heading down to the Southern Hemisphere for Super Rugby Pacific. This weekend was, of course, the qualifying finals, a strange term to describe a truly bizarre playoff format. Suffice it to say, it's the only playoff format I've encountered where you can lose and still win. The weekend got started with Crusaders hosting the Reds. As the comms said, quote, "It was a night for the hale and hardy," unquote, with torrential rains that had been dumping down all day and temperatures just a few degrees above freezing. There was a layer of water on top of the pitch for both teams to contend with. Fairly early on, the comms just dropped out, and we only had on-field audio plus the ref mic and the TMO. And you know what? It was pretty cool. Like, wouldn't be my first choice every time, but it was kind of a cool change. On top of which, the Crusaders are a very vocal team, so it was interesting to hear what they're shouting at each other the whole time. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great spectacle, as you'd imagine in these conditions. The visitors didn't score a single point in the first 40 minutes, the hosts leading 12-0 at the break. The Comms came back a good while before the Reds got their first points of the night. A bleak and wet evening to forget for the visiting side, 32-12. And if I understand the format correctly, that was the end of the line. Sour note to end a promising season for the Reds for sure. Early in the morning on a Saturday, where I am, an intriguing matchup. The table-topping Chiefs at home at the FMG to face the reigning champion Blues, who only barely scraped into the postseason, but could be a formidable foe given their recent form. And I mean, given that roster, it's ridiculous. Like, add to that the Chiefs' propensity to choke at the end of the year. I figured this one could go either way. The Chiefs spent the vast majority of the first half camped in the Blues territory, but the visitors putting in over 100 tackles before the half-hour mark, but neither team could get over the try line before the break. Though the home team led 9-3, Bowden Barrett set himself up for what looked like a typically brilliant try, but fluffed it as he got to the whitewash. A shocker for the Comms as much as for him. Like, I honestly never seen anything like that from him, from the 2-time World Player of the Year. In the second half, it remained a game of penalty kicks alone until right on the cusp of the final 20 minutes when the Chiefs got the first try of the night to go up 19-6. Looked like the Blues were quickly running out of luck. They just haven't been the same team this season. In the final minute, it was 19-13 with the Blues driving hungrily inside the Chiefs' 22. Was the Chiefs' annual collapse at hand? Sure enough, with the clock in the red, they had one final scrum to steal an unlikely upset score. The Blues would. Bowden slotted the extras for the crushing victory 19-20 in Hamilton. The crowd in disbelief. Keep in mind, the Chiefs aren't out yet, but drop in seating below the Crusaders, which could be significant. Incredible game. One for the purists, I guess they might say. Anyway, after that, it was on to the Brumbies versus the Hurricanes. Three good-looking matchups this weekend. Though I think we would have all liked to have seen Moana Pacifica get into that final six, and how good it would it have been for the Drua to get a nice home game in Suva. Well, there's always next year, as they say. Coming on the field was Tom Wright, one of the standout players across Super Rugby this whole year. I'm a little embarrassed I haven't featured him because he is the heart and core of this very good Brumbies team. The world feels right when the Crusaders and the Brumbies are good, Tom Wright came in with 169 carries, 46 defenders beaten, 9 try assists, just the one try of his own, but he has been a quiet terror. By the way, he's also made more meters than any other Super Rugby player with an eye-popping 1,073. Conditions were good in Canberra, as the comms informed us, and with things tied at 7, a quarter hour into the game, the comms informed us that they looked like they were in control. They looked like they know where they want to be and how to get there. But with the score tied, it wasn't really clear to me which team they were referring to. It was an incredibly physical contest. Right before halftime, the Brumbies had the option to take the lead with an easy 3, but decided to go for the corner. I did not feel good about that call, but you know what? It paid off, and it was 21-14 at the break. The home team had a 14-point lead as we entered the final quarter. I was fired up to see potentially an Aussie team advance. The visitors made a game of it, but a final turnover, and the Brumbies kicked it out to hold on 35-28 in Canberra. Another great match in Super Rugby. Okay, well, with the weirdest playoff system on earth, next week, we've got the now number 1 Crusaders hosting the still clinging on Blues, and the Chiefs will host the Brumbies. Both those games should be top-notch. I can't wait. Meanwhile, switching gears entirely back over here to Europe for the top 14 in France, it was the final round for the love of all gods. And as is tradition, all these fixtures were slated for the same time on Saturday evening in France, which definitely makes it all more exciting. Other comps, maybe take a harder look at the top 14. They do a lot of cool things that other leagues kind of haven't really picked up on. So in the order in which they appeared on my streaming service, we began with Bayonne taking down Toulon 18-10. Lyon dropped one at home to Racing 92, 34-47. What on earth? Montpellier were served some cold justice by Clermont 10-23. Pau smacked around La Rochelle 32-18. Stade Francais beat Castres 21-10. UBB more than doubled up Vannes 59-28. Rough way for them to end their season. And finally, Perpignan managed to edge out Toulouse 42-35. Of course, we've got all our playoffs set. Next weekend, teams ranked 3 through 6 will face off to see who earns the right to face either Toulouse or my Border Beagles. On Friday, Bayonne are home for Clermont. On Saturday, Toulon are home for Castres. That should be an incredible matchup. But what we also know now is that Vannes will be relegated back down to the Pro D2 after just one rocky season. And we know who will be playing in the Access game, the most high-stakes game there is. And while an upset is incredibly rare, the fact that promotion is on offer makes it the must-see fixture for me every year. We now know that Montauban, a team I've never heard of, has won promotion to the big time after upsetting favorites Grenoble, who seem to be perennial also-rans. Montauban secured promotion in large part thanks to Argentinian prop Lucio Sardoni, who has 7 caps for the Pumas and started against the All Blacks in last week's boringly named Rugby Championship. Grenoble can still secure promotion themselves if they can win against always struggling Perpignan on June 14th, and they'll be at home with Grenoble at the Stade des Alpes. Oh man, that's going to be exciting. Anyway, once again, switching gears, coming back home to the United States, it was the final round of the MLR, where the obvious game of the week was my beloved Free Jacks away to NOLA, who we needed to win in order to lock down home field advantage throughout the playoffs. We ended up making it closer than it needed to be, but win we did 17-21. The diminutive Oscar Lennon snuck through for the first try, as did fan favorite, except for the guys on our right, Brock Webster, while Lock Sam Caird got over to ice things late. Elsewhere, Utah, they got a statement win against the Bell Ends of Los Angeles, 48-33. Then it was a crazy result. San Diego Legion, planted at the bottom of the Western Conference, came out and absolutely hammered DC 50-5. Didn't see that one coming. On Sunday, Houston beat Anthem to make it a full 2 seasons without a win for Carolina, 26-14. That makes them 0-32 as a franchise. Ouch. And then finally, Seattle smashed Miami 42-17. That means we are locked in for the playoffs. This year, my Free Jacks have again locked up the Eastern Conference and home field advantage throughout. To be fair, if we manage to make it to the final, that will almost be a home game as well, since they can drive there in about 45 minutes. So this weekend then, on Saturday, it'll be Chicago at home for DC, followed by Utah hosting Seattle. And then on Sunday, it's my Father's Day gift, my Free Jacks home to face the annoyingly frisky Miami Sharks. I'm not going to lie, kind of worried. And then followed by Houston at home for the Bellends. Pretty impressive. 2 expansion teams that are already making the playoffs. But you know what? Here's hoping that's the end of that. So staying here at home for the WER, it was the penultimate round. We had 2 fixtures on offer, both on Saturday. The Bay Breakers beat Chicago Tempest 45-21 to keep the second city winless. The Denver Onyx got right back on the horse, beating Twin Cities Gemini 75-14. Yowza, this team is frightening. Our final round is next weekend with a full slate. That means Gemini will be hosting my Banshees on Friday the 13th. Feels like we're fated to win that one, right? On Saturday, the Bay Breakers will get slaughtered. Play Denver. And to wrap up this incredible first regular season, the stupid New York team that nobody likes will hopefully find a way to hand Chicago their first ever win. How nice would that be? Go ahead, guys. Do it. You can do it. Come on. And don't forget, after 2 weeks, it'll be the Legacy Cup final on the 29th of June, which means you could go to the MLR final on the Saturday and still have plenty of time to get to Minnesota for the inaugural WER final. I've linked both events in the show notes and encourage you to attend both. The music, you'll know it's time for this week's Diamond in the Ruck Award. And this week, the award goes to Adam Radwan. Mr. Radwan, your 2 scintillating first half tries set the tone for a brilliant victory for your Tigers and sets us up nicely for an absolute classic of a matchup. Your first score was eye-popping, but the second was out-of-your-seat stuff. Just amazing and a fantastic way to end my rugby weekend. Adam Radwan, congratulations to you, for you are this week's Diamond in the Ruck. Well done, sir. Okay. That brings us to our updates and previews. I've kind of already listed everything in its own segment. Semis in the URC and the Premiership already happened, so we've got finals for both of those. We've got our semifinals in Super Rugby, top 14, same thing. It's kind of the, I don't know what they call it, it's the bye round for the top teams, first round of the playoffs in MLR, and the final round in the WER. If I've missed anything, please reach out and let me know. And if you have thoughts, feedback, or even a snarky comment, you know what? Send them all my way. I would honestly love to hear from you. Well, my friends, that does it for another week. I'm very excited for the new pod to begin. If you haven't yet, give us a follow on the old Twitters. We're at Maul Street Pod. That's MAUL ST POD. And stay tuned for news about our first episode. So, to all of you across the globe, cheers. Talk to you soon. And be well.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, Nate.
You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?